Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 14 of the 25 Tour de France, brought to you by Baker Tilly. Big shout out to Baker Tilly for sponsoring every episode of the Butterfly Effect for the 25 Tour de France. Now let's get into today's marvelous mountain stage here at the 25 Tour de France, with 4 categorized climbs, bookended by the Tormale and Super Boneras. You know it's going to be an exciting stage. All 4 climbs come in the last 110 kilometers to go. Just before that, at 112 kilometers to go, is the sprint line competition. Why do I bring that up? Well, I told you guys yesterday on the Butterfly Effect, Lidl-Trek, Johnny Milan wearing the race leader's green jersey. We see him here at the start line, right next to the yellow jersey, Tadej Pogačar, who's just points behind Johnny Milan. And if we start getting some stage victories right there for Tadej Pogačar in the race leader's yellow jersey, he's going to take over that green jersey, because I told you guys Lidl-Trek's been knuckleheads for a bunch of stages, giving away green points to everybody and not capturing green points for Johnny Milan like they should have been. Now, when the stage starts, it's a little bit going to be wet and damp out there, and when we get up into the mountains with the last 110 kilometers to go, once they're going up into every one of the 4 summits here on today's stage 14, it's going to be wet and foggy and a miserable descent. So today's stage is going to have a ton of crucial moments. At the beginning, until you get into the first sprint line competition at 112 kilometers to go, what will Lidl-Trek do? Going up the climbs, how do people survive all of these HC climbs, 2 of them, and then survive the Col de Aspin, and then survive, of course, Parasaur, and then get into the final climb that's 112 kilometers to go and make it up to the finish and try to keep your general classification going. So you have to be careful going up, you got to be careful going down, and you have to figure out what's going to happen with Lidl-Trek at the beginning of the stage. Well, they hit kilometer 0. There's a little bit of pause as they're waiting for some riders to get on the back, and then they start the action once the red official car gets out of the way. We see attacks right away from Lidl-Trek. That's Quinn Simmons, and he's got his teammate on his wheel. These guys are still knuckleheads at this moment. You do not want to start attacking on this stage. If you go up the road and you can grab the points there at the intermediate sprint competition at 112 kilometers to go, that means Johnny Milan doesn't get any points. Now let's say you had 20, 30 guys, 50 guys going up the road like we have seen in other stages, and they grab all of the points away from Johnny Milan. Well, if they grab all of the points and then they get caught, it opens up the stage for Tadej Pogačar to grab 20 points at the end of today's stage. So you don't want to be doing this, but they're attacking left, right, and center. We go 10 kilometers into the stage. Johnny Milan is throwing in a 10K attack. He's going solo up the road in race leader's green jersey. I don't know what they're doing, but you're not going to stay off by yourself. Johnny Milan gets wrapped up. We see a bunch more attacks from Lidl-Trek, and then we come into about 128 kilometers to go, where G. Thomas goes up the road. He's got 2 riders for companions, so 3 riders going up the road. Behind, the cameras find Skilmos, Lidl-Trek, going down in the center of the island. We don't get to see how he went down. We just see him sitting on the ground. And this is going to be the end of the Tour de France here for Lidl-Trek's Skilmos. As he gets up, we see his arm bandaged. He will get back on the bike and try to finish up today's stage, but he's going to abandon at some point in time later. So once we go a little bit further up, where we see G. Thomas getting caught with his 2 breakaway companions, now we're coming in about 8 kilometers to go into the intermediate sprint line competition. Lidl-Trek get on the front. They're driving it on the front now. This is what they should have been doing the whole stage. You have to control the stage into the sprint line competition so Johnny Milan can grab maximum points. Well, Lidl-Trek do a beautiful job of leading them out until Johnny Milan hits the accelerator button, and then he crosses the line for maximum points. 20 points for Johnny Milan in race leader's green jersey. The only problem the knuckleheads did, look back there and see the 3 Lidl-Trek guys sitting up on the right side of the peloton there. You'd think, oh, they did a fantastic job. Johnny Milan grabbed maximum points. Well, look over to the left slightly in front of Lidl-Trek. That's Tadej Pogačar. Tadej Pogačar is going to grab 3 more points too. And if you don't think 3 points are important, when Tadej Pogačar can win today's stage 14 and a bunch more stages still to come, well, you might be a knucklehead if you're sitting on the Chesterfield thinking that. But I will forgive you if you're on the Chesterfield and you didn't think about that yellow jersey over there. But if you're 3 Lidl-Trek riders, and points are so important right now for Johnny Milan and Lidl-Trek to win the green jersey, you got to keep sprinting and you got to be in front of Tadej Pogačar 100%. So we see Johnny Milan got those points. Tadej Pogačar grabbed 3. Okay, we go into stage now, because now we're getting ready to start the first Tormale climb here on stage 14. That's why Tadej Pogačar was at the front. He's not interested in green jerseys or winning the green jersey. He just had to be at the front because right after the sprint line competition, Col de Tormale starts proper. Monster famous climb here. We're talking about 19 kilometers, and this thing has percentages of 7.5 average percent going up this climb. So you know it's a steep one. I've done it many times, and it certainly is. As we see coming on the front, it's UAE team member. It's driving on the front. Tim Wellens. Well, I said driving. He's probably not driving. He's coming into it. He's got control of the peloton. Then we start seeing the first attack. It's Santiago Buitrago from Bahrain Victorious throwing in attacks. When we see Santiago Buitrago get brought back, UAE team members are on the front. Then we start looking at the back. Thijs Benoot from Visma Lease bike is dropped. Now, what's going to happen? They're already losing a crucial member right here from Visma Lease bike as he's getting dropped off the back. We go up a little bit further and we look at the back of the peloton. It's Remco Evenepoel, Soudal Quickstep that's at the back. I told you guys in Beyond the Covers, the week before the Tour de France started, that Remco Evenepoel needed to solve the problem of what was happening at Flèche Wallonne at the beginning of the Classic season in 2025 when his legs blew there. I told you again at Dauphiné that they need to solve what was happening on stage 6, the first mountain stage, where Remco Evenepoel's legs blew again. Here at the Tour de France, his legs have blown not once but twice because yesterday's individual time trial went miserable when he got caught and passed from Jonas Vingegaard. Now he's at the back of the peloton. At the front of the peloton, what are we seeing happen? Our Ensman's throwing in attacks left, right. He's driving it up the road here, and he's going to have some company from Lenny Martinez. As that's happening, we look at the back of the peloton again. We see it's Tim Wellens, UAE team member. That's coming out the back. He's going to have some problems. Machine, we're going to see later, further up the stage here, that Machine's going to be giving him a push while he's putting a water bottle there on the seat tube, fitting it between the leg and the seat tube there. He's dropping the bottle in, and luckily gets his hands out as he pushes Tim Wellens up the road. Now we see Remco Evenepoel pulling over to the right side of the road. The last thing Remco Evenepoel from Soudal Quickstep's going to do here at the Tour de France is hand the bottle to the kid there that's wearing the Bora Hansgrohe jersey. As we see him at the back of his car, then we see him climbing in the passenger front seat. That's it for the Tour de France for Remco Evenepoel, as his legs have not been able to come better after blowing two stages ago. With that in mind, we go back up to real time where we see that is our Ensman and Lenny Martinez and a group of 15, 20 riders. Ben Healy's up there, Tobias Johannesson's up there, and he's in the top 10 of the general classification, sitting 8th when today's stage 14 started. But remember, everybody's about 8 and 10 minutes down on the general classification to Tadej Pogačar, so UAE team members are not panicking back there. And when we look and see who's pulling on the front, it's Niels Palet, because Tim Wellens has been back there, and Sivakov's going to have a little bit of a suffering part here on the Tormale. So Niels Palet's pulling on the front, and we see UAE team members have everything under control, but it's ape up front with the breakaway guys. They're going all over the place. Finally, I'm going to fast forward us a little bit, but there was attacks left, right, and center. Lenny Martinez and our Ensman were always part of them. Then Lenny Martinez gets away with about 5-6 kilometers to go here on the Tormale and starts going solo. Behind, we'll see it start to come back together, but still bodies have exploded all over. Ben Healy, who is in this group, is going to get dropped out and go back to the peloton. And when we go up to the top of the KOM, it's Lenny Martinez grabbing maximum points at the KOM as he's got 2 minutes on the group behind and about 3 minutes and 30 seconds on the peloton. Now, we start looking at the peloton that still is coming up to the top of the KOM. I want to point out is Julien Alaphilippe, the Frenchman from Tudor Cycling. Well, he's looking at the fan there, and she's holding a marvelous piece of cardboard right there. And it's been foggy, wet, and miserable conditions and getting colder at the top here of the first mountain pass, Tormale. So Julien Alaphilippe moves his bike over to the right side and tries to grab her sign. The woman will not give up her sign. She's holding on to it. So Julien Alaphilippe gets part of it. He gets a nice big chunk of this sign, and you see the woman and the two fans just in front of her looking over at Julien Alaphilippe like, what'd you just do? You just stole my sign. We back up so we could take a look at her sign a little bit closer. I think it was a supporter there for Wout van Aert, if I'm reading the lettering correctly on the front. And Wout was dropped halfway going up this climb, so he won't get to see his supporter sign right there because Julien Alaphilippe's holding about a third of it. Well, the Frenchman tears off that third into about a half, and then he's going to start stuffing it underneath his jersey. Now, why is he doing that? When they drop down the backside, that cardboard there will keep the wind off the chest right there. It'll absorb some of the moisture on the chest, and it'll absorb some of the moisture on the jersey. Now, one thing to think about is two-door cycling is sponsored by ASOS, and ASOS is quite an expensive clothing company, and it's a piece of cardboard he's using right now to stay warm. Okay, we know there's probably no jackets at the top. So Julian Alaphilippe stuffs it on his jersey. The peloton's going over the top at about 3.5 minutes. Drop down the descent for the big break. That's about 15 riders with Lenny Martinez, who took maximum KOM points as he's holding the KOM jersey, dropping down the descent. Sepp Kuss and Parapentre somehow find a way to slip off down the descent. We didn't exactly catch it, but it's chaos everywhere. When we look at the peloton, they're split up all over the place. When we look at the 15 riders, we got Sepp Kuss and Parapentre going up the road, so you know they're split up all over. And when we look further back at the, we'll call it the third chase group, we know back there that you have Tobias Johannesson in there, you have Arensman and Carlos Rodriguez from Ineos, and of course you have Simon Yates back there while his teammate Sepp Kuss is up the road. Ben O'Connor was back there in that group too. And we have some Movistar riders, and one of them's named Mas, Enric Mas. But Enric Mas not having the perfect kind of Tour de France that he like to have. His teammates Mulberger and Einar Rubio are in that group. Now we come into Col de Aspin with 68 kilometers to go. The gap's at 50 seconds, 2 minutes, and 4 minutes to the peloton with Lenny Martinez driving it. Lenny Martinez will go up and grab maximum KOM points. And we see at about 30 seconds, it's Sepp Kuss and Parapentre there closing up the gap. We go back down and look at the peloton. Julian Alaphilippe's now talking over to the motorcycle cameraman as he's pulling out that sign, and he's asking the cameraman if he can hand this back to the lady that he stole it from. We can imagine anyway. So the Frenchman is going to get rid of the cardboard as he puts his vest on from his team two-door cycling there to keep him warm on the descent, and gives back the property that he stole earlier in the stage. We drop down the descent. We're coming into about 58 kilometers to go. We see Sepp Kuss, Parapentre have latched onto Lenny Martinez. Now they got a gap of about 2 minutes on the group behind that has Simon Yates. Of course, Ineos are wrapped up in there still with Arensman, who's looked fantastic so far throughout the stage, and Carlos Rodriguez, his teammate. Along with those riders, we got Tobias Johannesson back there and Ben O'Connor. So 5 guys chasing the 3 up front, or we should say 4 guys chasing the 3 up front, because Simon Yates most likely wouldn't do too much work on the front, although I did catch a moment when he was pulling on the front up there. Now we come into the third climb here. This climb here is the Col de Parasaur, and we look at the gap at about 14 seconds to Sepp Kuss, Lenny Martinez, and Parapentre with 5 guys chasing. Everyone else back there is slowly, that group of 15 is in and around the picture, but they haven't quite latched on as we see the 5 riders latch onto the 3 up front. But Simon Yates starts to blow, so it's 4 latching on the 3. We'll call it 7 riders at the front. These guys are holding about 2 minutes and 45 seconds, but the gap starts to drop, and as it's dropping down to about 2 minutes and 15 seconds, Arensman's had enough playing around. The Ineos rider throws in attack. Tobias Johannesson and Lenny Martinez try to go with him, but Arensman throws in another acceleration, blows everybody off his wheel. With the speed of Arensman from Ineos up front, he's driving solo right now. He's putting in time right now, 30 seconds, 40 seconds into the chasers behind. Most importantly, he's going to move that gap from 2 minutes and 45 seconds up to 3 minutes and 15 seconds quickly on this climb Parasaur. When we go over the top, we got 1 rider at the top. That's Arensman going solo over the top. He's holding 1 minute and 20 seconds on the group behind, so we can start to forget about those guys. But the peloton, being led by UAE Team Emirates, are driving on the front. They'll have about a 3 minute and 20 second deficit though. And when I back the film down the Parasaur, Niels Palet had blown. So on the front of the peloton right now for UAE Team Emirates is Soler. Sivakov had done some good driving up this climb, and he started to blow near the top, but he'll come back onto the front of the peloton when they're going down the descent for UAE Team Emirates. So with that in mind, that tells us that UAE Team Emirates look like that they're possibly interested in today's stage win. Now we go into the interview of Tadej Pogačar. He said, well, if the stage wins there, of course they'll take it. But he sounds like they don't want to put much of a risk for UAE Team Emirates teammates there of drop it. They've had Tim Wellens drop on the first climb. Niels Palet's out the back. Sivakov's dropped on the third climb, but he's found his way back on, and when they came down the descent. And so at this moment, you got to believe that UAE Team Emirates are possibly interested in winning the stage. Otherwise, why are they driving so hard when the biggest threat on the general classification is Tobias Johannesson, but he's only about a minute 45 seconds in front of the peloton because they're losing time to our Ensman that's up the road. As our Ensman's driving, he's going to come into about 15 kilometers to go. This is not the start of the final climb. This is the bump after the descent. Our Ensman's got to push hard on the pedals, and he's got about 3 minutes and 10 seconds on UAE train back there. Now, this is the moment when Sivakov blows. As Sivakov blows, Jorgensen from Visma, Lisa Bike blows too. Now, when we look up front and we see that Jonas Vingegaard's locked all over the race leader's yellow jersey there, he's only got one teammate. It's my man, Victor Campenaerts. Everyone else is still up the road. Sepp Kuss is up the road. Simon Yates is up the road. But we've seen both those boys blow. So they can't be much help back there to Jonas Vingegaard unless he has a mechanical or something important at this moment where they need more mechanical help in a small draft before you get in the last 12.5K. Victor Campenaerts, my man, though, is still there. So he's got one rider with Visma Lease Bikes, Jonas Vingegaard. We start looking at that group. It's down to about 15, 20 riders with UAE on the front and Solaire's driving it. Come into 12.5 kilometers to go. It's the start of Les Champs Super Boneras up there as we see the final climb begin here for stage 14. Once we look at the time split, we know the gap's at 3 minutes and 10 seconds. It's questionable whether or not if our Ensman can win today's stage because with 12.5 kilometers to go, and Tadej Pogačar has not even hit the front yet. He's still got Soler on the front driving it. We look behind Soler. We see that is Adam Yates. We see Tadej Pogačar and Jonathan Narvaez are in there. So 4 riders from UAE Team Emirates with Soler going for the first 2 kilometers of this final climb. As he pulls off, Adam Yates is on the front, but it'll just take a moment longer before Jonathan Narvaez comes over to relieve Adam Yates as they switch position. And now we know that it's a little bit different calculation here for UAE Team Emirates as the last mountain stage, it was Jonathan Narvaez blowing it up. Now he's setting tempo and he's not blowing it up. If I bring you back into that interview from Tadej Pogačar, well, his voice sounded a little bit different, so he might have the sniffles or something going on. At this moment, though, we see Jonathan Narvaez on the front, and he's starting to wrap up all of the breakaway riders up there, but we still have our Ensman up the road. As our Ensman's drilling it and they're wrapping everyone up, we're going to come into the point that we see the first attack today from the GC favorites with about 7.5 kilometers to go. Felix Gall throws in an acceleration, and he's got to make up 2 minutes and 35 seconds on the rider up front, our Ensman. With the acceleration of Felix Gall, Jonathan Narvaez blows. Adam Yates gets on the front. That's 2 UAE Team Emirates riders left on, as we see Tadej Pogačar sitting second. Jonas Vingegaard's locked on his wheel still, and Victor Campenaerts dropped off a long time ago when the climb started proper. So Jonas Vingegaard's on his own. They were wrapping up the breakaway guys with Simon Yates and Sepp Kuss at different points in time, but those boys didn't hang around. The group is down to talking about a dozen, 15 riders up there, but Ben Healy is still on. With the pace there of getting faster and faster, we start seeing riders drop off the back. As first as Kevin Vauquelin's coming off first. After Kevin Vauquelin's, Ben Healy from EF Education drops off. He was sitting 11th on the general classification. And Adam Yates is still driving it on the front. We come into 3.3 kilometers to go. Jonas Vingegaard's had enough. He throws in the first acceleration. He's got to make up 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Felix Gall's up there at about 1 minute and 40, so they're about 30 seconds apart from each other. So Jonas Vingegaard's throwing in acceleration. Tadej Pogačar's locked onto his wheel. Lipovic, Bora Hansgrohe is hanging on there. We look behind there, who's opened up the gap. That right there is Oscar Only opened up the gap. And Primoz Roglic can't follow the acceleration, but his teammate Lipovic is holding on for dear life. Lipovic starts struggling. He blows a little bit. Jonas Vingegaard's on the front. He wants some help from Tadej Pogačar, but that's not happening. So Lipovic gets back on. Tadej Pogačar's throwing in an acceleration at just about the same moment. So Lipovic is going to come off the back, and then Tadej Pogačar is going to be coming up there, the Felix Gall with Jonas Vingegaard. As those two riders pass Felix Gall, he's going to start slipping off the back too. Then Jonas Vingegaard throws in an acceleration. We're at about 2.2 kilometers to go. As Jonas Vingegaard's acceleration, he's still got to make up 1 minute and 30 on our Ensman. We go up front and start looking at our Ensman with 2K to go. He's got 1 minute and 35 seconds. We go back down and look at the 2 favorites on the general classification, first and second. Jonas Vingegaard's on the front. He's looking back over his shoulder. He wants some help from Tadej Pogačar, but the Slovenian won't give it. So our Ensman, when he comes on under a K to go, he's got about 1.5 minutes time on the 2 leaders behind. Jonas Vingegaard gets stuck on the front. Aspin's drilling it with everything he can. When he comes into 400 meters to go, look at his head drooping down his shoulders there as it looks like he's about ready to explode, but he's still got over a minute gap on the 2 leaders behind at 400 meters. Then his head pops up. He explodes one more time on the pedals as he starts to accelerate. Comes into just under 200 meters to go. He knows he's going to win today's stage 14 of the Tour de France for Team Ineos as he pushes one more time on the pedals, then sits up with about 20 meters to go. Hands to the helmet there and his face as he can't believe what's happening here for Team Ineos rider Aspin. He crosses the line completely exhausted into the Soigneur's arm there, and then he falls over to the side as you see the red official car there getting held up because he crashed in the middle. He stepped off his bike and then fell on the ground as the red official car there's getting stopped and held up, and you see the official there holding up the red vehicles they can't pass. Now you got to be wondering what's happening down below because Tadej Pogačar and Jonas Vingegaard are locking horns. We're going to the finish there at about 200 meters to go. Jonas Vingegaard still on the front. Been looking back and forwards, left and right as much as he possibly can, and he can't wait around too much longer because Lipovitz and Felix Gall are just a few seconds behind them. Then we reach 175 meters to go. Tadej Pogačar throws in an acceleration. Jonas Vingegaard tries to hold on to Pogge's wheel just behind as Pogge's acceleration finally opens up a gap to Jonas Vingegaard that can't hold the Slovenian's wheel. Tadej Pogačar will cross the line second on today's stage, grabbing some green points right here against Johnny Milan. There's no doubt about that. We look at third about 4 seconds back. That's Jonas Vingegaard, Visma bike. And then we go about 10 seconds behind there. Well, Felix Gall's coming across the line and Lipovitz coming just a few seconds off his wheel. We look further back and go about 50 seconds behind that. And we'll see that as Oscar only post-picnic NL that crosses the line. We got to go a little bit further back again, about another 40 seconds, and we see that it's Primoz Roglic crossing the line back there along with Ben Healy. So when we go up front and we finally look at Tadej Pogačar as he's come around and he's there by Aspin who's laying on the ground. He finally reaches over. Aspin finally gets up off the road and shakes the hands of Tadej Pogačar. Pogačar goes over there and starts shaking the hand of Lipovitz that had a fine right here on today's stage 14. Now, when we break down everything that happened, Lidl Trek got lucky because everything stayed together for the green intermediate points competition. When we talk about the battle here from UAE Team Emirates and we look at the interview afterwards from Tadej Pogačar, well, he says he does have a stuffy nose. So that's opening up some opportunities of what could possibly happen. We've seen him already crash here at the Tour de France. Now we know he's getting the sniffles. You got to wonder in tomorrow's stage 15, luckily for Tadej Pogačar, it's not back-to-back mountain stages here on the weekend, on the second weekend of the 25 Tour de France. So he should be able to survive tomorrow's stage, no doubt about it. Then it's a rest day on Monday. But if the sniffles get worse and turn into something, all of a sudden that 4-minute plus gap there to Jonas Vingegaard, something might happen because in today's stage 14, when we're going up the final climb, Tadej Pogačar clearly was the rider who dropped form from the previous stages here at the Tour de France. Jonas Vingegaard's form did not come up. Tadej Pogačar's came down because, again, if you look just a few seconds behind third place on today's stage 14, Lipovitz and Gall are right there. So if Jonas Vingegaard's form was something special, clearly they would have lost a minute and a half, and Felix Gall wouldn't have been able to put in that first acceleration at 7.5 kilometers to go without Jonas Vingegaard countering it directly. But Jonas Vingegaard wisely saw that Tadej Pogačar was not on his top form, so he threw in some big acceleration. So anything can happen at the 25 Tour de France. Like and subscribe. We got a big battle coming for tomorrow's stage 15 here at the Tour de France. So I'll see you guys on the next Butterfly Effect real soon.